I'm Marlia of Kearsarge Nordic, and today we're waxing classic skis. So, the most important thing about classic skis is having your kick zones marked. If you have any questions about that whatsoever, or I would just overall just recommend that you check out our video about taping and marking your kick zones, because this part of your ski, there's two functions of a classic ski. This part of your ski is called the kick zone, or your wax pocket. This is where your kick wax goes. So the kind of the two parts of the classic discipline are kicking and gliding. This is where all your kick comes from. This is where all your glide comes from. It's really important that those two don't mix. So it's really important that you don't get any glide wax in this wax pocket. The other really important thing is that when you're crayoning your wax and when you're brushing, you always go out of your kick zones. So even though the general rule is tip to tail, in classic skis for this front section, you're actually going to go tail to tip because you're coming from your kick zone towards the tip of your ski. As with any ski, first thing, just kind of wipe it off, make sure there's no dirt or ground bits of leaves or water, and then you always want to start with your number one brush to give it a good little cleaning. Make sure there's no dirt. And then I'm also going to hit it with my number two brush. As always, I have my three brushes here. I have, this one is, we'll use this a little later after we scrape. I have some scrapers, I have Fiberline, I have my iron already preset to 150 degrees Celsius, which is the proper melting temperature for the wax that I'm going to use today. Just a little Toco NF Blue. Okay, so I'm going to start my crayon. As I said earlier, always go from the end of your kick zones towards whatever end of your ski. So in this case, I'm going towards the tip of my ski, and just like with skates, a little time on the iron, a little time on the ski. You really want to make sure that you're dragging it out onto the ski until no more wax is coming off. This ensures that you're not putting kind of half-melted wax back on the iron and not wasting any wax. Another really important practice is to make sure that when you're dripping the wax, it should always be dripping over your ski. We are not millionaires, unfortunately, on this team, so we need all the wax-saving tips that we can have. Once you've got a good amount of wax on the ski, again, not too much, but not too little. You don't want to burn your ski or scrape any base off when you scrape. You can do your first pass, which should just be nice and slow, making sure you melt all that wax together and really get it soaked into your base. Because, as I mentioned in our skate video, the whole reason we wax our skis is to hydrate the base so that you can repel all the water and basically kind of make the suction ineffective of your ski on the snow. So this is pretty good looking. I just kind of did a couple touch-ups after my first preliminary pass. I'm going to move on to the second side of the ski. Now this is the side that I'm actually going to be going tip to tail by coincidence because I'm going away from the kick zone. That is, if nothing else, if you take nothing else away from this video, take that away. A little time on the iron and a little time on the ski, making sure that I'm not caking the wax on there, but, you know, getting a good amount, and also dripping over the ski. Get any last drops there. Do a little touch-up, and iron it in. I'm going to have to go back and just make sure that I get a little bit of wax in where it wasn't before. This is going to be a problem for you if the bottoms of your skis aren't exactly flat, which for some people they aren't. That's if you have newer skis, not going to be a problem. And just like that, we're all done with the waxing. I'm going to let these sit and cool for about 20 minutes to let the wax really soak into the base and work on the next ski. So these skis have been sitting, cooling for about 20 minutes, and I'm going to start to scrape now. So again, really important, away from your kick zones, get as little bit of like wax particles and wax dust inside this kick zone as possible. 45-degree angle, little bit of pressure that I'm applying with my thumbs, and just pull. I want to reiterate that these are just kind of the basic wax principles. There's a lot more that some of you more knowledgeable viewers will be thinking, oh wow, I know how to do some really cool thing. It's all just basic here. Really making sure that you're not scraping into your base. That's really important. So again, those little black particles, that space, stop scraping if you get to it. And again, it doesn't mean that your ski is necessarily done and fully scraped if you're getting to base. Just please, please try not to get base. You can do a mix of long passes and short, kind of more detail work if you have a specific trouble area. I also want to state again the importance of keeping your scraper sharp. It's really hard. It's really hard to get a nice, accurate scraper job when your scraper is really dull. All right, that looks pretty good. So I'm going to move on to the groove. I'm going to just steady it with my right hand here as I push it along, and also keep any of the wax bits from flying up into my eyeball. There we go. So I'm just going to take a little bit of Fiberline, kind of go over, see what areas that I need to still work on. And I'm seeing a couple little spots here. Again, I'm just using my thumbs and the other fingers of my hand to kind of create a little bit of flex in the scraper and really get to those kind of harder to reach areas. If you're having trouble with the tip, you might want to just support it a little bit with your hand. Generally, the best practice, though, is to keep both of your hands on the scraper so that you make sure you're not making any big digs into your ski base. Go over the groove one more time. Give it a wipe with Fiberline, and I'm going to move on to scraping the backside. There are kind of two ways that you could go about scraping your classic skis because you have these kind of two sides. You can do all of the work on one side and then move on. So you can scrape, do your groove, Fiberline, do all your brushing on one end of your ski, and then move on with your fully finished end of the ski to the next end. Or if you want to make, if you're waxing with a sibling or you're waxing with other people and you want to kind of make it more efficient as far as tools, you can do all the steps at once. So that's what I'm doing here. Scraping both sides of my ski, and then I'll move into the waxing, or into the brushing, sorry. Again, making sure that I'm not scraping base, but that I'm still getting as much wax off the ski as possible. Okay, time for the groove. Nice. I'm going to wipe it down with some Fiberline to make sure there's no areas that I missed. Oopsie. And now, time to brush. So I'm going to start with the number 2 brush. This is the mid-weight brush, and I'm going to brush with the arrow away from the kick zones. Super, super important. I can't stress this enough. Brushing, still the same. Put a little bit of elbow grease into it, a little bit of leverage. Do some short and some long passes. And make sure you just get all of the wax dust, as much of the wax dust as you can, out of your ski. All right. And then finally, we have the fine copper brush, the number 3. Again, waxing with the arrow. Finally, I'm going to wipe it down with my Fiberline, and then we can take the tape off, because when you when you put the glide wax onto your skis, you're going to end up with a little bit of a ridge in between the tape and the kick zone. So this ridge is pretty good. You don't want to end up with too much of a ridge, because that means you've kind of put too much wax on your ski, but you're going to end up with a little bit of a ridge regardless. So what I like to do is take my scraper, hold it, again, 45-degree angle, make sure it's clean and sharp, and just go over it very lightly, flatten it out a little, and that's done. I'm not going to brush it because it's going to disperse more dust, and I want to keep my kick zones as clean as possible. All right, give it one more Fiberline wipe, and then you're done.